Whether you grew up with the original Robocop movie that came out in 1987, or you only simply knew of the franchise through the sheer exposure from popular medias, Robocop Rogue City is a perfect example of a product that you would call an imperfect perfection. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means the game faithfully adapts its source material in all the right ways while also having flaws that are noticeably there, but the two don't necessarily overlap each other that much. I think it's also worth to keep in mind that the game was most likely held back or at least restricted in some way by the fact that it only took about 3 years from what I look into to make, and it was made by under the hands of a smaller yet dedicated team. Of course, that does not, in my experience, hinder the game in any major way from being extremely fun, and whether it be the grotesque shootout or its great storyboard. Now, the question you must be wondering is Robocop Rogue City worth $50? Yes, I would say it is worth $50, but with the caveat that only do it if you have 50 disposable money. I'll go a bit more into why that is, but for now, let's go over why it is worth $50. I'll start with the best part of the game. The first-person shooting action never stops being fun. I can tell you firsthand that regardless of whether you've seen the original movie, Rogue City will provide you with an endless sea of gun shootouts and body amputations that would just keep you wanting to play more beyond the first few hours. At least that was the case for me. And I'm just happy to say that they got the most important aspect of the game right, being making the gameplay extremely fun. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of FPS, but I think it was the right decision in this particular title, largely because Robocop is rather stiff and slow when it comes to movements, especially when he's walking. He can't even run, at least in the original movies, which this game is based on. So if this were a third person, I think it will actually make his traversing speed seems even slower from that perspective. And it would just look awkward, to be honest, when he sprints, which this game does have a sprint ability, but you obviously don't see it in first person. So I think that really helps when it comes to dealing with that hassle revolving around his movements. The Auto 9 that Robocop uses just sounds so good because it just feels different compared to any other firearms that you'll come across in the game. It's got this powerful combination of raw firepower and a futuristic tech that it perfectly matches Robocop style, and you can obviously, it's very similar to the way it sounded in the movie. Not exactly the same, but they're similar enough, I would say. It's also nice that you can pick up any weapon that you can find. So you will find that some tasks are easier to deal with if you have certain weapons. For example, you want a sniper rifle to take out, snipers or distance targets, and machine guns are more suitable for like larger groups, more aggressive hostiles. And of course, the fact that you literally shoot off people's head and body parts help really seals in the experience in this futuristic dystopian. Although one minor issue that I keep coming across is that your second weapon automatically switches to the OCP shotgun after every mission. So you don't get to keep any weapon you pick up from the last quest. While it's a small nitpick, it would be nice to be able to keep them for the next missions. Another really nice touch of playing Robocop is his scanning system, or in particular the targeting system that is embedded in his visor. I love how it enables you to basically gauge how many enemies are in front of you and what objects are susceptible to damage that could result in either a combustions, usually involving gas tanks, or an electric discharge. It allows for a quick decision makings, and there's a lot of ways that you can strategize right as soon as the fight starts. I play the game in extreme, which is the hardest difficulty, and believe me when I say it is challenging. Certain segments you'll most likely die multiple times before you can complete a mission, either by analyzing the environments for cover, which is what I often use the most, or memorizing enemies' patterns, their positions, and alerts. And I love this game for that difficulty because it really forces you to think beyond just shooting or punching your way through, which don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun, but you really want to be careful and think hard about which skills you unlock and how they can better assist you during combats. Keep in mind there are quite a bit of combat mechanics that I have not gone over. I think it's best that you experience it yourself because certain situations will require you to adapt accordingly, and it's going to be based on you as a player, what your individual skills are, and how good you are at essentially scanning your surroundings and how you can make the most use of your circumstance. When it comes to the narrative, the game takes place between Robocop 2 and 3, so it isn't rehashing an already known plot in the franchise, which makes the experience fresh to everyone, especially those who have seen the films. Regarding the quality of the story, I think it's really good. Not the greatest thing you'll come across, but it's good enough to get you engaged in the lives of these characters, and especially Robocop, aka Alex Murphy. The game touches on the greatest strength and the message of the original film, the battle between the man and the machine inside of Robocop, and it does such a good job of implementing that storyline that you really do start to get behind the character that you're playing, making the action scene so much more riveting, because you really aren't just playing an almost indestructible walking cyborg, but someone who's trying to find his place among humans and an ever-developing cybernetic technology. The writing of the leading cast and the dialogues are, I would say, very well crafted, and you start to understand why Robocop cherishes the ones close to him, despite being held back by his operating system, as you will see throughout the game. I will say this, I noticed some reviews criticize the voice acting and the character animations as being amateurish, and I will disagree somewhat. You're more than welcome to check out any cutscenes or gameplay videos and see for yourself. I think the voice actings are really good and the facial animations are pretty nice for a game in this category of smaller developers. Obviously, they aren't going to be on par with some of the most well-known big games out there, but I would say they're good enough to let it slide. With that being said, I will say this. One really noticeable flaw in the voice acting and the facial animations unfortunately revolves around none other than Robocop himself, aka Alex Murphy. I can't help but notice that his voice and his facial animations always has this robotic delivery of the dialogues. Even in instances where his human side was supposed to come out more, or when talking about his friends and family, in the original film, there were subtle moments when you can tell that Alex Murphy starts to take over his body over the OCP programming, such as when he takes a pause or there's a change in his voice. But here, none of that is anywhere to be found. It's unfortunate because he literally is the title character, and I wish they could have incorporated a bit more emotions into the acting and the graphic, especially the facial animations, but I am willing to look past that, considering, again, this game, it was made in about 3 years and by a smaller development team. One really nice addition to the storytelling of robocoproguecity is the implementation of dialogue choices, where your choice during a conversation would have an impact in the overall story, or at least leave an impression on the characters. Now, this is where the concept of man and machine gets to be defined by none other than the player themselves, as your choice and your action or your inaction would either lean you towards serving the public trust or upholding the law. People don't typically expect this much depth to be given to the interaction of characters or storytelling in a first-person shooting action-packed game like this, where the main appeal is really just you shooting and punching your way through thugs and criminals. I certainly didn't expect this, but the fact that they had this feature goes to show you how committed the development team were to the integrity of this franchise, so salute to them. As for the side quests, they're alright. I would say some can be a bit dragging, but they aren't all borefest that I expect them to be, as some of them will eventually lead to an action shootout, which was something that I was always looking forward to. The side quests do provide more opportunities for you to either be on the side of the public trust or uphold the law. So there's a whole lot of chance that where you can make an impact on the story and these characters if you choose to do so. But if you really not into them, don't worry, you can always skip them. I don't think it would really have that big of a change in the story overall. Graphically, the game looks pretty solid for what it is. There are obvious unrefined parts in the game, like the sky looking a bit off sometimes. And once you start to look past certain areas, not everything gets rendered properly. But do keep in mind, again, this game, it only took about 3 years to make by an indie-like company. So it'd be a bit unrealistic to expect the game to look great in every corner. When it comes to glitches, bugs, or errors, I really have not come across any that I can note of, except for maybe 1 to 2 crashes, which I'm not even sure if that was the game or if my PC was updating itself. But regardless, there's no issue that I can legitimately complain about it or interfere with my actual gameplay experience. As for the length of the game, everyone's different, but you can easily expect between 10 to 15 hours. I do wish the game was a bit longer considering the price tag, but it's still an acceptable length given the circumstances. Robocop Rogue City is definitely worth $50. I would say with everything I just listed, it's an extremely fun game, if not anything else, and I can almost guarantee that anyone would have some sort of enjoyment out of it for a few days, if not a week. But purchase it only if you have 50 disposable money, as I don't think it's quite rewarding, as it doesn't have any endgame content or any other gameplay mode aside from the campaign. If I were to rate the game, I would give it an 8 out of 10, meaning it is really good. Overall, the game is a love letter to the fans of the original films and an appeasing action-packed shootout experience for those looking to waste hours of their time into. You can't go wrong buying it, but again, only do it, okay? I would only recommend it if you're financially stable enough. So that means if you have 50 disposable money that you can just throw away without it impacting you in any way. Otherwise, I would wait for a discount. With that being said, I do hope you enjoyed the video. Do leave a comment, subscribe, or a like, and I will see you soon.